Ever since the coronavirus outbreak began, we've all had a lot of questions. Where did the virus come from? How does it spread? How infectious is it? And is it mutating to become more contagious? Well, today we're going to clear up perhaps the biggest question of all. If this virus is mutating, what does it mean for us? But first, let's just make sure that we're all on the same page about mutation. Mutations are essentially changes to an organism's genetic material that can happen at any phase of life. They can happen for a whole host of reasons, like if DNA or RNA does a sloppy job at copying itself during cell division, or if an organism is exposed to damaging environmental factors such as smog or UV light. Mutations can affect any aspect of an organism's life, from its appearance to its behavior, or they can have absolutely no effect at all. And while mutation rates are naturally higher in viruses than, say, humans, mutations are in fact absolutely essential to the evolution of all life forms.
So the term mutation, I think, has lots of connotations, but mutation itself, you can just think of it really as being a change, and that's all it is. It's a small change in the genome at a certain position in the genome, and all organisms mutate. It's not a surprise that we have a virus that is mutating. In fact, that's absolutely normal.
Mutations are generally really simple things. An A in the virus's genetic code might change to a T, or a G to a C. These letters specify particular nucleotides or bases in a gene. At some point early on in the pandemic, one of the virus's 30,000 letters jumped, resulting in a protein D to G change, creating a mutation. In a paper published in early 2020, a team from the Los Alamos National Laboratory suggested that this mutation was causing SARS-CoV-2 to be more contagious by allowing the virus to enter cells more efficiently.
D614G is probably the most famous mutation in the SARS-CoV-2 genome. It was really the first one that people picked up as potentially interesting, and then since then there's really been an explosion of studies to try and understand what this mutation might do. There's currently no strong or good evidence that this mutation changes the severity of disease or really affects how the disease manifests itself.
When it was first reported in March, this mutation was only found in a few of the genetic sequences that were available to scientists at the time, and was mostly present in Europe. But by April, it was present in over half of the available sequences and had expanded globally. Today, this mutation is so widespread that it isn't just a deviation from the pandemic, it is the pandemic.
Luck is really an important contribution. It's not inconceivable that we had a subset of the viral population that was, for example, introduced into Europe or Eurasia, where we really had very few interventions in place. That pocket of viruses expanded very happily and readily until we had, for example, lockdowns. We should also keep in mind that this mutation is not found on its own. So it's found with 3 others, almost 100% of the time. And so this is quite consistent with the idea that we might have this ancestral virus that happens to have these 4 mutations. It gets introduced to a region of the world, it proliferates, and actually we see these mutations at really very high frequency. If we look at SARS-CoV-2 now around the world, maybe 80% of them actually carry this set of 4 mutations, and so we certainly can't ignore it.
So are these mutations just par for the course, or are they contributing to the emergence of entirely new strains, different from the original one that first left Wuhan in 2019? Well, this is where things get a little murky. There's still no clear evidence that SARS-CoV-2 has evolved into forms that are significantly different from the dominant strain that we're familiar with. In fact, there's no real consensus in the scientific community on how many strains of the coronavirus even exist, or even if more than one strain exists at all. And the reason for that might be because there's no universally accepted definition for strain to begin with.
Generally, we would use the word strain where we see marked differences between pathogens based on their functional behavior. That's not what we see in SARS-CoV-2. If we look at the genomic diversity of this particular virus, it's still really very low.
So low that if you took a sample from an infected patient in China and a sample from someone in the US, those samples would be different only by a handful of changes. Although those changes might still provide information about how the virus transmits. Which leads us to the final question. What does this mutation mean for us?
We need to be very aware of the regions that our vaccines or antibody therapies are targeting. The vast majority of these are targeting the spike protein, and so we particularly are looking for mutations in that region. D614G falls slightly outside of what we would call the most important region of the spike protein. At the same time, any of these mutations which have been observed within this region are still really at very low frequency, and this gives us plenty of opportunity to characterize their potential impact. For now, we watch, we wait, and we monitor.
Any lingering questions about mutation and its potential effects on future COVID-19 treatments? Or do you have any other COVID-19 related stories that you want to see us cover? Let us know down in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to Seeker for more COVID-19 coverage. And as always, thank you so much for watching.